My name is Rachel. I'm 34 years old, and I live in Austin, Texas. I've never told this story publicly before, but after everything that happened, I feel like I owe it to myself to speak. Maybe someone out there needs to hear this before I begin. If you're into real, raw family stories that feel uncomfortably honest, make sure you subscribe, because what I'm about to tell you didn't happen in a movie. It happened in my house. And it broke everything. I grew up in a tight-knit Christian family in suburban Ohio. My parents were the kind of people who hosted Thanksgiving every year, sent Christmas cards with those awkward family photos, and believed that family always comes first. That belief shaped my entire life, especially when it came to my younger sister Lily. Lily was always different from me. I was responsible, straight A student, married my college boyfriend at 26. Lily was spontaneous, artistic, emotional. She dropped out of community college twice. She dated musicians, bartenders, guys who were figuring things out. But she was my sister, and no matter what, I defended her. When our dad passed away 5 years ago from a heart attack, everything changed. My mom didn't handle it well. She spiraled into depression. I stepped in, managing finances, visiting weekly, helping with bills. Lily disappeared for a while, said she needed space. Still, I never judged her. Fast forward 2 years, I was married to Daniel. We had a 4-year-old son, Noah. We had just bought a modest house in Austin after Daniel got a promotion in a tech company. Life wasn't perfect, but it was stable. Then Lily called me one night. She was crying. She had just left an emotionally abusive boyfriend in Denver, no savings, no job, nowhere to go. And without thinking, I said the words that would later haunt me: "Come stay with us, as long as you need." If you're watching this and thinking, I would have done the same, I know. That's exactly how I felt. Family is family, right? At first, it felt good. Lily moved into our guest room. She helped with Noah. She cooks sometimes. She said she was applying for jobs. Daniel was supportive, at least outwardly. She just needs stability. He told me 3 months passed. No job. No real effort. But I defended her every time Daniel got frustrated. She's healing, I would say. She's trying. Looking back now, I wonder if I was trying harder than she ever was. Then small things started happening. Nothing dramatic. Just shifts. Lily and Daniel started talking more, at dinner, in the kitchen, laughing at jokes I didn't understand. I told myself I was being paranoid. One night I walked into the living room and they were sitting closer than usual on the couch. Not touching, but close enough that it felt wrong. They pulled apart quickly. Daniel smiled to casually. "You okay?" I nodded. I didn't want to be that insecure wife. If you've ever ignored your gut because you didn't want to look crazy, subscribe, because you already know how this ends. A few weeks later, I noticed Lily dressing differently around the house. More makeup, tight gym shorts, perfume inside the house. I mentioned it lightly. She laughed. "Relax, Ratch, I'm not stealing your husband." The way she said it, playful, but something about it stuck with me. Daniel started staying up later, said he was working. But sometimes I'd wake up at 1 a.m. and he wasn't in bed. The first time I found them in the kitchen together at midnight, I told myself I was overthinking. The second time, my stomach dropped. They were whispering, and when they saw me, they stopped mid-sentence. That silence was louder than any confession. But here's the thing about betrayal. It rarely explodes at once. It leaks. One crack at a time. Then came the moment I can't unsee. It was a Saturday afternoon. I had taken Noah to a birthday party. Came home earlier than expected because he wasn't feeling well. I opened the front door quietly. The house was too quiet. No TV, no music. Just muffled sounds upstairs. I told myself it was nothing, but my hands were shaking as I walked toward the bedroom. The door wasn't fully closed, and I saw enough. I don't need to describe it. You already know. My husband. My sister. In my bed. I didn't scream. That's the part that surprises people. I just stood there, like my brain refused to process what my eyes were seeing. Lily saw me first. The look on her face wasn't guilt. It was fear. Daniel turned next, and I watched the color drain from his face. That was the moment my entire identity shattered. Not just as a wife, not just as a sister, but as someone who believed loyalty meant something. If you're still watching, subscribe now, because this is start, and trust me, what happened after was even worse. I closed the door, walked downstairs, sat at the kitchen table, and waited. They came down 10 minutes later together. Lily was crying. Daniel was silent, and I said something I never thought I'd say in my life: "Which one of you is leaving?" And that question changed everything. If you haven't already, subscribe, because what happened next is something I wouldn't believe myself if I hadn't lived it. They stood across from me in my kitchen, Lily wrapped in one of my robes. Daniel avoiding my eyes. I asked again, which one of you is leaving? Daniel spoke first. Rachel, it's not what it looks like, that sentence. The most insulting sentence in the English language. I laughed, actually laughed, then explain. What it looks like, silence. Lily stepped forward. We didn't plan this. I stared at her. You didn't plan falling into my bed? She started crying harder. Daniel tried to put his arm around her, around her, not me. That was the second betrayal. The first was physical, the second was emotional alignment. He had chosen his side, and it wasn't mine. That night Daniel slept in the guest room. Lily locked herself in the bathroom for 2 hours. I sat on the edge of my son's bed watching him sleep, and I realized something horrifying. I couldn't explode, I couldn't break down because I was a mother first. The next morning Daniel asked if we could talk like adults. He used that phrase intentionally, as if I was the irrational one. We sat at the kitchen table. He looked exhausted, but not guilty, just stressed. Rachel, this has been building for months. Building like this was some architectural project. What has? I asked calmly. Our distance. Distance, I blinked at him. I was working 2 jobs at one point to support this house. He shook his head. You're always tired, always focused on responsibilities. Lily listens to me. There it was, the justification. She listens. So now I wasn't just betrayed, I was inadequate. If you've ever been cheated on and somehow made to feel like it was your fault, subscribe. Because manipulation doesn't start loud, it starts subtle. He continued, it just happened no. Nothing. Just happens repeatedly. You choose it again and again. I told Lily she had 48 hours to leave. She cried, said she had nowhere to go. And here's where it gets complicated. My mom called that evening. Apparently Lily had called her first. Crying. Telling her a version of the story. When I answered, my mom's voice was shaky. Rachel, your sister is hurting. I felt something inside me snap. I'm hurting, she said. Daniel felt neglected. Neglected, that word again. My own mother, repeating it. She said it wasn't serious. Not serious. Sleeping with your sister's husband isn't serious. I realized something that day. People will always protect the weaker narrative. And Lily was very good at being fragile. I was the stable one, the responsible one, which made me easier to blame. 2 days passed. Lily didn't pack. Instead, she started acting normal. Cooking dinner. Talking to Noah like nothing happened. I finally confronted her directly. Why aren't you leaving? She looked at me. And for the first time, the tears were gone because he doesn't want me to. The air left my lungs. What? He told me he's confused. He needs time in my house, under my roof, with my child sleeping down the hall. I walked into the guest room. Daniel was sitting on the bed. Is that true? He rubbed his face. I don't want to make a rushed decision. That was the moment I realized. They weren't ashamed. They were negotiating. And I was the outsider in my own marriage. Things escalated quickly after that. Daniel started sleeping in the guest room permanently. Lily stopped pretending to feel guilty. They began talking openly. Asterisk in front of me. Low voices. Inside jokes. Once I caught them laughing. And something in me hardened. I consulted a lawyer quietly. Didn't tell anyone. Just information. Just preparation. Because here's something nobody tells you. When betrayal becomes public, it becomes strategic. You don't just cry, you calculate. If you're still watching, subscribe. Because next is where everything flips in a way I didn't expect. Asterisk the real blow didn't come from Daniel. Or even Lily. It came from my own extended family. At Sunday dinner, which I stupidly still attended, my aunt pulled me aside. Marriage is complicated, she said, gently. Men wonder sometimes. I stared at her. But sisters shouldn't, I replied. She sighed. You don't want to destroy 2 relationships over a mistake. 2 relationships. As if mine didn't count, I realized then how deeply ingrained it is in some families to preserve the illusion over the truth. Daniel started suggesting separation for clarity. Lily stayed. In my house. My son started asking why Aunt Lily sleeps in Daddy's room sometimes. That question almost destroyed me. That was the night I made my decision, not out of anger, but out of clarity. I walked into the guest room, looked at both of them, and said, you have 24 hours. No screaming. No crying. Just finality. Daniel looked shocked. You're overreacting. I stepped closer. No, I'm finally reacting. And Lily, she didn't cry this time. She just stared at me. And I saw something chilling, not regret, not shame, but victory. And that's when I understood. This wasn't an accident. It was a replacement. They left the next afternoon. Daniel packed a suitcase. Lily didn't look at me once. Before walking out, Daniel said something that still makes my blood boil. You're making this harder than it has to be. Harder. I watched him load his things into Lily's car. Yes. My sister's car. They drove away together. That image burned into my memory like a brand. But I didn't cry, not yet. Instead, I did something that surprised even me. I changed the locks that same day. That night was the first quiet night in weeks. No whispers. No tension. Just me and Noah. He asked where Daddy was. I told him. Daddy was staying somewhere else for a while. He didn't understand. He just nodded and went back to playing with his trucks. Children adjust faster than adults. Adults cling to illusions. 2 days later, Daniel texted me, "Can we discuss custody calmly?" Custody, that word hit harder than the affair. He wasn't just stepping out of my marriage. He was preparing to fight for my child. If you're watching this and thinking betrayal ends at heartbreak, subscribe, because sometimes it turns into warfare. I met with my lawyer again. This time, not casually, strategically. And here's something most people don't know. Texas is a no-fault divorce state, which means his cheating. Legally, it barely mattered. But cohabitating with my sister? That complicated things socially, not legally. Daniel had already moved into an apartment with Lily. That part spread fast through the family. And guess what? Half of them sided with him. Rachel is cold. She's always been intense. Maybe Daniel just felt alone. It amazed me how easily people rewrite history to make themselves comfortable. Suddenly I wasn't the betrayed wife. I was the emotionally unavailable woman who pushed him away. Gaslighting doesn't always come from one person. Sometimes it comes from an entire network. Then came the social media announcement, 3 weeks after moving out. A picture: Daniel and Lily at a rooftop bar downtown. Caption: "Sometimes life takes unexpected turns." Unexpected. The audacity. My phone exploded. Friends asking if I had seen it. Coworkers whispering. My mom called crying. I never imagined this would be public. It was already personal. And here's where something shifted inside me. Instead of reacting emotionally, I documented everything. Screenshots, messages, photos. Because if they wanted to play narrative games, I would play legally. Daniel filed first, joint custody, 50/50ths. He claimed I was emotionally unstable after the incident. Like I had spilled wine on the carpet. He attached text messages where I had said things like, "I hate you. You ruined our family." Normal emotional reactions, now framed as instability. If you've ever been pushed to your breaking point, and then judged for breaking, subscribe, because this part matters. Court mediation was the first time I saw them together since they left, sitting side by side, holding hands like this was some tragic romance. I walked in alone, but not weak. Daniel avoided eye contact. Lily didn't. She actually gave me a sympathetic look, as if I was the unfortunate one who couldn't handle reality. The mediator asked if reconciliation was possible. Daniel answered first, "I don't think so." Just like that, 7 years reduced to a sentence. Then he added, "I found clarity." Clarity, that word again. Lily squeezed his hand, and in that moment, I realized something terrifying. They weren't ashamed, they believed they were justified. The real punch came during custody discussion. Daniel wanted alternating weeks. Noah was 5.5. He had never spent more than 2 nights away from me, and now I was supposed to hand him over half his childhood. The mediator suggested compromise. I asked one question: where will Noah sleep? Daniel hesitated. At the apartment. With who? I pressed. He glanced at Lily. Us. That was it. That was the moment I stopped negotiating emotionally. I shifted into survival mode, because my son would not grow up confused about boundaries. He would not normalize betrayal as love. I didn't fight dirty. I fought smart. Character witnesses. School stability. Primary caregiver history. I had been the constant. And courts value constants. After weeks of tension, the ruling came. Primary custody to me. Daniel received visitation every other weekend. When the judge read it, Lily's face changed for the first time. Not sadness, not guilt, frustration. They had expected control, they didn't get it, but victory didn't feel like victory. It felt heavy. Because now I was officially a single mother, with a broken marriage, and a sister I would never speak to again. Daniel texted that night, "This isn't over," and I believed him, because ego doesn't dissolve easily. If you're still watching, subscribe. Because next is where something happens that neither of them expected, and it forced me to decide whether I was bitter or finally free. Before I continue, let me ask you something honestly. If your sister replaced you in your own life, would you ever forgive her? Or is some betrayal permanent? I'm Rachel, I'm 34 years old, and I thought throwing them out would be the hardest part. It wasn't. What broke me and rebuilt me came almost a year later. if you've stayed with this story. Subscribe now, because endings aren't always explosions, sometimes they're quiet revelations. Life after the divorce wasn't dramatic. It was steady. Noah adjusted to the visitation schedule. He would go every other weekend, come back slightly quieter, slightly more observant. Kids see more than we think. Daniel tried to keep things civil, polite emails, scheduled pickups, minimal conversation. Lily stayed in the background publicly. No more social media displays, no more rooftop photos, but I heard things from mutual friends. Apparently the clarity phase wasn't as romantic as expected. Moving in together is different when it's born out of secrecy instead of love. Apparently they argued a lot. Apparently Daniel was stressed. Apparently Lily felt isolated. The poetic irony was almost too obvious, but I didn't celebrate it, because healing doesn't come from revenge. It comes from detachment, and I was slowly learning that. I focused on work. I got promoted to curriculum coordinator at the school. I started therapy, not because I was unstable, but because I refused to carry bitterness into my son's future. If you're watching this and thinking strength means never asking for help, subscribe. Strength is choosing to rebuild instead of collapse. Then came the call, a random Tuesday night. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but I answered, and I heard her voice. Lily. Crying. Not dramatic crying, not performative crying, broken crying. Rachel, can you talk? Silence sat between us like history. What do you want? I asked calmly. I don't know who else to call. That sentence hit in a strange place. She explained through uneven breaths. Daniel had changed. Distant. Cold. Controlling. He monitored her messages, questioned where she went, accused her of being capable of betrayal. The irony was brutal. He says if I could do it to you, I could do it to him. I closed my eyes. Of course he did. Trust built on betrayal is built on sand. She kept talking. He's not the man I thought he was, and there it was, the illusion cracking. For months she had defended him, justified him, chosen him. Now she was experiencing the version of him I had quietly endured during the last year of our marriage. Not physical abuse, not dramatic cruelty, just emotional erosion. The kind that makes you question your own reality. The same gaslighting he tried on me then. She said something I wasn't prepared for. I'm pregnant. The room felt smaller. Pregnant. With my ex-husband's child. My son's half-sibling. And suddenly this wasn't poetic justice. It was generational consequence. She asked if she could come over, just to talk, just to feel safe, and this is where everything inside me split. Part of me remembered the image in my bedroom, the kitchen whispers. The courtroom, the humiliation, the betrayal, the part of me that hardened. The other part remembered childhood, shared bunk beds, secret notes, laughing until we couldn't breathe, a sister. Not a rival, not an enemy. Just blood. If you're still here, subscribe, because this is the real heart of the story. I told her no. Not harshly, not cruelly, but firmly. You made a choice, Lily. She cried harder. I know, I just didn't think. You didn't think. I interrupted gently. That's the problem. Silence. Again. I'm not your safe place anymore, I said. And those words didn't feel vindictive. They felt honest. She asked if I hated her. I paused. Double quotes. No, I don't hate you. And that was true. Hate would mean she still had emotional control over me. She didn't. But I don't trust you, and I can't rebuild that. She whispered, I miss my sister. And that was the only moment my voice almost broke. I miss her too. But missing someone doesn't mean they're still safe for your life. After that call, I sat alone in my kitchen. The same kitchen where everything fell apart. And I realized something. Closure doesn't come from watching someone else suffer. It comes from knowing you chose yourself when it mattered. Daniel later requested mediation again. Apparently the relationship was complicated. Apparently co-parenting was tense. Apparently reality was heavier than fantasy. But that wasn't my burden anymore. My responsibility was Noah's stability, his example of boundaries. His understanding of respect. Months later, I ran into Lily at a grocery store. She looked tired. Pregnant. Older. We didn't hug. We didn't fight. We just stood there, two women shaped by one decision. She asked if Noah was okay. I said yes. She nodded. I nodded. And that was it. No dramatic reconciliation. No screaming. Just distance. Sometimes that's the most powerful ending. So here's my question to you. Did I do the right thing? Should I have let her back in when she called crying? Should blood outweigh betrayal? If you were in my place, would you forgive your sister, or would you protect your peace at all costs? Comment below and tell me honestly. And if this story felt real to you, subscribe, because these aren't fairy tales, they're choices. And sometimes the hardest part isn't losing people. It's choosing not to lose yourself.